Hey folks, my name is Jürgen, aka Not I'm Proud of It, and Destiny has brought you to my channel today to talk about the opportunity currently in Legends. And I want to show you one of my new Legends cards I have added to my collection, a Sword of the Ages. I want to talk about more or less easily available Legends cards, readily cheap available Legends cards like these playsets here, and why these are cooler and more unique than you think, and you might want to pick those up. And I want to talk about iconic cards like the Sword of the Ages, like the Mirror Universe, like the Abyss, like of course Mode, and others. And let's not even go to the Tabernacle, but we could. In general, I think Legends has a lot of awesome cards. And that is the problem with Legends. Legends, the set itself is too big. So for a set collector like I am, I never really focused on Legends. I talk about Antiquities a lot, and I talk about Arabian Nights a lot. And I even showed you my 2 sets of the Dark I love, because that's what I started with. But I never really focused on Legends. Next to the cards that I used in decks. And I think the most famous Legends common, of course, is the Chain Lightning, because back in the day I had a deck made of blue cards and red cards. I called it Counter Blast. A lot of counter spells and a lot of blast spells, as the name says. And cards like this were awesome because you didn't have a lot of direct damage except for the Lightning Bolt and the Fireball and the Disintegrate and the Chain Lightning. And then, of course, later on the Inferno from the Dark was added to that damage arsenal, let's say it like this. And yeah, later on, of course, with Mirage came Incinerate. In general, in the beginning, these cards were awesome. And the Chain Lightning still has value. I think even nowadays, an original Legends Chain Lightning is a couple of bucks. And it's not about the money. If you want to put these cards in an old school deck, these are the cards you have to go for. And especially cards that are used in Vintage, Old School, or in other formats that are more or less formats that allow these cards. You could use a modern Chain Lightning as well in your Commander deck, but it's much cooler to use a Legends card. So if you wanna use these cards in your old school deck, then you have to have the Legends ones. And these I think I have for, yeah, let's say 30 years, that playset. It is still in quite good condition, I'm pretty happy about that, but I think it is an iconic card. And playsets like this currently set you back a couple of bucks, so it might be a nice opportunity. Commons in general, like this, the Flash Counter, I think it has been reprinted 1,000 times, are just like cents. It's ridiculous. You probably could get this playset for like $2 or $3, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't checked the prices on these in years, but I think counter targets, target interrupt or instant spell. Interrupts, of course, are not around anymore, but the fact that it's on there is already cool because it's a remnant from the past. And you can use these. And of course there are reprints, and of course there are other spells that do more or less the same. But Flash Counter was the first to do that, and I think it still is very, very iconic. So if you are looking to pick those cards up for your Vintage deck, like I said, for your old school deck, or maybe even to add to like a Commander deck nowadays, just for the coolness factor to have a couple of Legends cards in there, it is the right time to do so. Force Spike, another one of those cards I had in my deck. Back then it was awesome because you could counter with 1 mana, and if you timed it right and if your opponent didn't expect it, it was pretty devastating. If you didn't have 1 mana left to pay, then you were using that Force Spike. And 4 in a deck might be a bit of overkill, but in general I think cards like this, it's a no-brainer. Just get your playsets, and there are like literally hundreds of strange and weird Legends cards that can be used in old school, that can be used in cool decks, and that you should pay attention to. And I never, unfortunately, did, because the last couple of years I focused on Antiquities so much, and now I'm focusing on Arabian Nights. And yeah, I mean, a playset of the Dark, or in general not a playset, but a complete set of the Dark you can pick up for a couple of $100. Legends is a different story because it has iconic cards like this. And again, we're going to talk about the price of the iconic cards in a second. I want to show you one last card. I don't think Psychic Purge ever has been reprinted. I had it in my sideboard because back in the day you played against a lot of discard decks like Hymn to Turek, Hypnotic Spectre, Mind Twist. These cards were all over the place. They tried to disrupt your deck by having you discard cards. And once you saw that in the first match, the second match you put in 4 of these bad boys, you either did 1 damage, direct damage with blue, to any target for 1 mana, which already is okay, because sometimes it's exactly the damage that you're missing in a counterblast deck. But if you, or any effect, if you need to discard this card by, any other cards, effect or whatever, your opponent loses 5 life. So that's kind of interesting. Effects that prevent or redirect damage may not be used to counter this loss of life. So if you had 2 of those bad boys on your hand and your opponent was thinking, hey, let's play a Hymn to Turek, and then he has no cards left in his hand, was like, bum, 10 damage, which was kind of nice, of course. Sorry for the wobbling camera, but I had to click away a message. So folks, that's what I wanted you to focus on. Playsets like this, and these are the ones I have, but like I said, there are like literally hundreds and hundreds of cards in the Legend set. So there is a lot of stuff you can use, a lot of weird cards nobody has ever seen. Pay attention to this. And these cards literally cost like cents, 20 cents, 50 cents, whatever. It is so available as a whole, the set, for certain cards, which are not very expensive. Although the set is not reprinted into oblivion. So pay attention to Legends. That's all I'm saying. And now we're going to have a look at the card I got myself. I had one of these. I wanted another one. I actually want 2 more because I want a playset. And not that it's a card that you easily put in a deck because, it is very expensive. So 4 in a deck might be overkill again. But you know me, I like to collect playsets. Maybe I one day wanna use that card in a deck and then I have it readily available. Sword of the Ages, folks. Really cool card. First of all, the art by Dan Fraser I think is really, really cool. It looks like a Roman gladius. And the Sword of the Ages comes into play tapped. Once you sacrifice Sword of the Ages to tap to do so. And as many creatures as you choose, Sword of the Ages does the combined power of these creatures in damage to 1 target. Sacrificed creatures and sword are then removed from the game entirely. Back in the day, that was a nice finisher. If you had like a couple of big green creatures on the table, it might be a Crowworm, it might be a Force of Nature, and even as a card to get rid of cards that were like destroying stuff for you or doing damage, like the Jusum Djinn or whatever. So these cards could be used to tap and then sacrifice those creatures you wanted to get rid of and ping your opponent directly. I mean, this is a common thing now, I guess. I've seen these kind of cards very often, but this was, I believe, the first one to do so. And yeah, in certain decks, that was quite powerful because once your opponent got to a stalemate and you both build up creatures and then you put this bad boy on the table, you found a way to untap it, or you just waited around, and then if it wasn't destroyed, you could just sacrifice as many creatures as you needed to do as many damage as you needed, and then your opponent was dead. I love this card. I think this was one of the first Legends cards I got. I have pulled this in the only Legends booster I ever opened, because we were allowed to buy 1 Legends booster in our LGS, and I loved the card. I traded it away for Recall at the time because I had more use for that in my blue-red deck. But later on I got it back again because I really, really liked it. These kind of cards, awesome cards. Like I said, folks. Let's get a thumbnail here. I think this is a nice thumbnail. Just all the play sets, all the cards. Let's get the force spike into the picture here, and let me finish the video by just saying a couple of more things. Folks, Legends cards like this, I paid 85 bucks now, or 80 bucks, something like that. 85 with shipping. Good big retailer. You could get it a lot cheaper. You probably could get it for 50, 60. I remember a couple of years ago, these were like 150, 200 bucks. Mirror Universe, I've seen it for around 150 bucks now, maybe even less if it's in worse condition. If it's in good condition, it's still around 200 bucks. These iconic cards, wonderful artwork, they have been 450 bucks a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. Same goes for, let's say, the Gwendolyn. Very iconic card, not the best card, but still absolutely iconic artwork. Wizards doesn't want to have anything to do with these kind of cards anymore. Super, super cool card to have in your collection. Has been going down from 300, 400, 450 bucks to maybe 150 nowadays. Legends has a lot of opportunity. If you want to buy a moat, you probably still pay like 800 bucks. If you want to buy a tabernacle, you probably still pay like 2,000, 2,500 bucks. But that was 4,500. So even these cards are less expensive. Legends is a set that is generally overlooked. And I want you to pay attention to Legends. I need to do that more as well. I think the first thing I'm going to do is like try to get a couple of common sets. Maybe 4 common sets for, like, I don't know if I can find them for like 100 bucks a common set. I don't know. There probably are around 100 commons in the set. So $1 per card, maybe a little less. If I can get 4 for 300 bucks or something like that, might be even too expensive. I don't know. I'm not sure if there are expensive commons like this one in here or other expensive commons. So like I said, I haven't paid attention to the set for quite a while, except for certain individual cards I've been looking at. But I will, and now is the time. And don't underestimate these old cards. Don't underestimate their use in vintage. Don't underestimate their use in, what is the word? Old school. Thank you. Sometimes my brain needs a second, especially after a long day. Don't underestimate their use in old school, and don't underestimate their use in the way, or in blinging out your commander decks or whatever. And these kind of iconic cards, these rare reserve list cards, of which there are only like 20, 30,000 in the world. I think 18,000 is even the number, 18,600 or something for Legends, or 31,000. I'm not sure. I have to look it up. Don't underestimate the rarity of these cards nowadays. And the price won't go up in a couple of weeks, months, whatever. Legends will stay at a low for quite a while. But the more reason to pick up your cards now. And they are so iconic. They are so diverse. Legends is such a big set. It's crazy. There are such weird cards in that set that it's a shame if you don't add them to your collection. I will definitely try to pick up a few more Legends cards here and there. That's all I wanted to say today, folks. Stay healthy, stay frosty, be a legend. Thanks a lot for listening. I talk to you next time. Bye bye.